recreating yourself. How you should see yourself, you should see yourself as clay, right? Not something that we're cemented. We're not something that's permanent, right? You should see yourself as clay. Clay is, you're able to mold clay, right? You have the empowerment to change yourself, to reinvent yourself, to reconstruct yourself, right? And that's empowering, right? When you control your own fate. We're not a victim to, determinism, right? Like whatever happened to us doesn't have to be like that for the rest of our lives. Like we have a chance, opportunity to confront ourselves and figure out who we are, right? Like Socrates talked about, the unexamined life is an unworthy life, right? A life that we don't confront ourselves and attempt to reinvent ourselves, that's an unworthy life. That's a life that's wasted, right? And our life is so short, right? We don't know when we're gonna go. So, we have the opportunity right now, at this very moment, to change ourselves. Whatever our weaknesses are, insecurities, fears, it's a great opportunity to help us change our identity, right? And that's what we're drawn to as children, right? Like I know as me as a child, I was drawn to Spider-Man, right? And for me to change my costume into Spider-Man, it was really empowering to me because I was able to transform myself. I was able to change my identity, right? I went from Ryan to Peter Parker, right? I grew up in that generation with Tobey Maguire and all those good movies. But that's why children are drawn to superheroes, because we like that transformation. We like that identity shift, right? We have that. We're able to control our own fate, right? Because humans, we're control freaks, right? We can't handle when we don't have certainty in our lives, and it's unbearable. So when we feel like we have a chance to mold ourselves, we have a chance to control our own lives, it's empowering. That's when you want to take action yourself. So, and controlling your own fate, you can't rely on anyone else. That's the thing. It forces you to confront your own self, because you can't figure yourself out through another relationship, a therapist, a book, right? Those things can help you. It can help you realize what's internally in you, right? But the only person that could really figure out who you are is yourself. And that's the truth, right? And, I'm big on Carl Jung, of course. And Carl Jung talks about the individuation process, the shadow, right? The shadows are things that repress behavior, repress things from our past that we repress, and it manifests outside through negative behavior, right? And you see in people, why did that person marry that person, right? And they always say people that you marry, they usually often have all your dream traits that we all want in a mate, but at the same time, they have all your nightmares and all in one piece, right? Usually people that marry someone, it's there's a certain survival mechanism, right? Your brain is in survival mode, and it recognizes that pattern and it is drawn to that person. We can never see ourselves as a final product or we're just done, because it doesn't work that way. Because we're always constantly getting feedback, right? From external, through other people, experiences that we have. We're always getting feedback of how we think of ourselves, right? And it's a mirror, right? People mirror off you, and that's when you need to work on yourself more. That's when you need to seek inside. We can't, point at any fingers externally why certain things happen, right? You need to look at yourself. You need to self-evaluate, analyze yourself, because that's the only way you could grow. Because we can't control others, right? We can't control it. The only person that you can't control is yourself. So you need to realize, what's the potential issue with you? Why did certain actions happen? Why did I experience those kind of emotions? You need to be self-aware. That's the key goal. And I think that's all we all wish in this lifetime, is this awareness. The more awareness, the less suffering, of course. So, and through that self-analysis, you get some truth out of it, right? And like I said before, I've worked with people with addiction. Worked at a sober living house, and most of those people, the addiction was never the issue. The alcohol, the drugs, that was never the issue. That was just the manifestation of their childhood traumas, right? Most of them, I realized, had childhood traumas, repressed emotion. They had their shadow, and they never confront their shadow. And through that, it was manifesting as through addictions, right? Because most of them face shame, guilt, self-hatred. That's why I saw most in the sober living house. And, they never confronted their demons. And through addiction, they were relieving themselves from that shame, because the shame goes away in a brief moment once you get the dopamine, oxytocins coming in, right? They feel bliss. They feel bliss for a moment. They feel like they're connected with themselves. And what happens too in their childhood traumas is they get disconnected with themselves, right? You get disconnected with yourself, and your brain goes in survival mode, and it's trying its best. It's trying its best of, resulting just to survive, right? Your brain is not designed to make you happy. It's not designed to make you feel good. It's designed for you to survive, right? It doesn't want you to die. So the mechanism, it wants you to survive. That's the primal goal of, our brain, really. And, most of these men, I listen to their stories in the sober living house, and most, you saw the manifestation, they're, like I said, with the drugs and alcohol, they didn't know how to cope. They had lack of coping mechanisms. And, what happens when you reiterate the addiction, it gets stronger and it becomes vicious. And, not only then now you have the, what happened to you in your past, but now you just toppled that with your addiction. So now you got to work through the addiction and, what your shadow, whatever happened to you in your past, right? But what I realized, working through the sober living house is it was never the addiction that was the issue. It was their mental health. It was their past experiences that they didn't, that they repress, and, they didn't confront themselves. And through that, they have a lot of shame, and just manifested into drugs and alcohol. So I think the moment you realize you have a chance to change yourself, we have a chance to change our identity, right? Just like I said, as a kid, we're drawn to superheroes for a reason, because we like that freedom of being whoever we want to be, right? And I think your purpose in life should be to constantly evolve as a person, always self-reflect, self-analyze yourself, always look at the good, right? Because we're not victims of anything. Everything that happens, we should see as neutral. Nothing's good or bad in this lifetime. Everything's an opportunity to realize more about yourself, your flaws, your things that I need to work on, correct? Things that we need to work on. And it's just like a pond. It's almost like looking at a pond of water and you just see yourself. That's all you should be doing. So the chance to reinvent yourself, to mold yourself, should be a very liberating experience. And I hope you guys try it out. So thanks for listening.